Okay, good morning, everyone. We're live now, so calling this to order. Council is convened in a work session retreat, September 17th, 2025. Welcome, everyone. I think everyone knows each other. I don't think we need to do introductions, but I just want to say a few words at the outset as we get started here, what brought us all together today. And I appreciate y'all being here. This started in the spring. City of Ridgefield and La Center asked for a countywide study on agricultural lands as part of the 2025 Comprehensive Plan update. Following that, the City of Ridgefield and La Center requested a work session with the council, and in a letter provided by them, it was to provide an opportunity to engage directly in assuring the scope of work for the resource land study meets our shared needs and facilitate required coordination between our elected leaders to ensure our plans are consistent with each other. So following that, the council agreed to move forward with the agricultural land study, and the council agreed to a work session and to have it inclusive and invite all of the cities to participate. The county manager had asked if there were any agenda items. We didn't get much by way of agenda items, so this is going to be pretty open-ended. Up to you all to say what you'd like to say. And then following all of that, there has been, the council proceeded in contracting with a consulting firm, Eco Northwest, to conduct the agricultural study. The study is underway. Final report is due November 4th, with public discussion on November 12th. Based on the outcome of the study, there may be additional work. I think there probably will be additional work. So today, and I had understand that there would be members from the Cowlitz tribe here, so I don't know. Oh, is there someone online? Oh, okay, Michelle, maybe you can help me out with the folks that are online. And maybe we do need to do some introductions of that would include the electeds around the table and any electeds that are online and the tribal members. So thank you for that. So we'll get to that. And just to say, this is a joint session for electeds only and leaders of the Cowlitz tribe. There, as I mentioned, no specific agenda items other than the comprehensive plan update. And because it's a work session, generally this is a time for us to receive information. We're not making any decisions as a council. It will inform decisions going down the line. If there are questions that aren't able to be answered, we'll make note of that and follow up on any of that. So I guess with that, let's do some quick introductions. So I'm Sue Marshall, Chair of the County Council.
Morning, everyone. Will Fuentes, Clark County Council, District 3.
Glenn Young, County Council, District 1.
Matt Little, District 4.
Morning, everybody. Matt Cole, Mayor, City of Ridgefield.
Judy Chipman, Mayor Pro Tem, City of Ridgefield. Sorry.
Great.
Judy Chipman, Mayor Pro Tem, City of Ridgefield.
Tom Strobin, Mayor, City of La Center.
Troy McCoy, Mayor, Battleground.
Eric Paulson, City of Vancouver.
And online, and Michelle, maybe you can help me by calling on people.
Mayor Hogan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Steve Hogan, Mayor of City of Camas.
David Scott?
I'm not an elected official, but David Fritz, our Mayor Pro Tem, is on and can introduce himself. Thank you.
Sam Crummett?
Sam Crummett, City of Battleground Planning Supervisor. I'm a staff person.
Amanda Lomasny?
Hi, good morning. Sorry, it took a second for my microphone to turn on. My name is Amanda Lomasny. I am the Assistant Director of Public Works for the Cowlitz Indian Tribe. I am in here listening in for Dean Reynolds, who is the Public Works Director and an elected tribal council member. So I'm here to take notes and report back.
Thank you. Tammy from the Cowlitz Indian Tribe.
Hi, I'm Tammy Quigley. I'm the project coordinator for the Cowlitz Indian Tribe, just listening in on behalf of them. Thank you.
Dave Fritz, City of Washougal.
As Dave Scott said, this is Dave Fritz, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council Person, City of Washougal.
Alan Peters, City of Camas.
Hi, I'm Alan Peters, Community Development Director for the City of Camas, here joining Mayor Hogan.
Josh Reynolds, Cowlitz Indian Tribe.
Hey, good morning. I'm Josh Reynolds. I am the transportation manager for the Cowlitz Indian Tribe. Here just listening in. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that's an elected that would like to introduce themselves? If I don't have you turned into a panelist, please raise your hand and I'll go ahead and do so. I think we're good, Chair.
Thank you. So we don't have allocated times or a list of who goes first or anything. We have 90 minutes, well, a little less than 90 minutes now. We have 2 additional work sessions following this one. So I'm not going to be cutting anybody off. I know some people may have more that they want to say than others, and that's just fine. If we did allocate time, though, it would be around 10 minutes. So let that be your informal guide. So who would like to go first? Don't be shy.
Hi, guys. I'm so very sorry. Actually, Dean Reynolds just joined in, so I would love to give him an opportunity to introduce himself. I'm so sorry.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Dean Reynolds, you're currently a panelist. You can go ahead and lower your hand and introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dean Reynolds, councilman for the Cowlitz Indian Tribe and the Public Works Director. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad you're here.
Chair, if I could get started, I guess since Mayor Strobin and I were the ones who initially requested the meeting, I think it's probably fair that one of us goes first. And so I'll just jump in the hot seat to get started. And thank you again for hosting to you in the council today. We do appreciate it. And for us, it's really just kind of more discussion points rather than wanting to say anything specific. But, you know, as we look towards wrapping up, you know, the year, and as every jurisdiction has undergone its own comprehensive growth planning and their updates, you know, each city has its own needs, and there's all that coincide with the GMA requirements. And what we're seeing from the city of Ridgefield is that a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't always work, and yet there are some implications there where we have to apply planning according to the same standards. So, you know, from our standpoint, how we meet our housing needs, how we meet our climate goals, our infrastructure goals, and how we reflect our own unique identity. I mean, Ridgefield just did an open house last night where we had 50 participants from our community come in and continue to provide input on all those things. I'm just kind of more curious to hear from other cities and even the county itself on, you know, what are the efforts look like? What are the challenges that each city is facing in its comp plan update? Maybe things that the challenges you're going through, and what are the different variables that you're applying there, and what's top of mind to you as you undergo our current plan? For us, it is definitely looking at UGA expansion areas that to us make sense, and happy to talk about those, even answering questions about those, but really just kind of as a conversation starter, just hearing what all the unique needs are.
Okay, thank you for stepping up to be the first one.
This is Dave Fritz with the City of Washougal.
Yes, please.
I want to thank the County Council for holding this meeting. As you know, I'm on this call along with Dave Scott, our city manager, and also Mitch Knipe, our city planner. We're here to listen, weigh in on any issues as necessary, and answer any questions you may have. One thing we did want to mention is timing. With the delays early in this process and the late start to the county agricultural resource land study, unfortunately, we're going to miss the mandated GMA compliance deadline. And we feel we can't afford further days. So we would ask that the council help ensure that the process moves forward without any additional setbacks. I think that's most what was on our minds, but we really appreciate this meeting. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate all the hard work of the county staff as we work together on this project.
Did you want to elaborate on what the missed deadline is going to mean for Washougal?
I think we're still kind of trying to sort that out. I will get some detail on that, and I'll be glad to share that when I have it, if we can get something more specific for you on that.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to ask the county council if they're aware of the challenges that the small cities face, right? If you guys are intimately aware with it, have you guys been out to visit the cities and see the terrain and see the challenges that each, like Richfield or La Center, actually are under pressure and how to tackle those moving forward? I know, Councilor Marshall, you've been out there with me several times and we've walked through it. How about the rest of you?
Chair. So I've not been to the city of Washougal, the city of La Center. We're just talking to Washougal, but I'd be happy to come and visit your jurisdiction at some point and maybe have a conversation with you about the pleasure of touring the city of Richfield. And like every jurisdiction experiencing challenges, you guys are doing an amazing job, by the way. So, and thank you for sharing some of the information that you did when both Councilor Young and I visited the city of Richfield, but keep up the good work. So.
Would you like to elaborate on those challenges?
Well, yeah, and that's what I was
Or
kind of
did
waiting to
one
hear
of the
what people
councilors
have.
want to respond? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sure, thank you. And I'm definitely open to going out there and visiting. Been out there to Ridgefield, right on that edge there, seen kind of both sides of the freeway and such, but haven't met with anybody from your elected. So I'm happy to do that. We only hear what we hear. You know, we get the information that is sent to us in our email, which we certainly read and listen to, but it's different being on the ground. So I'd be happy to do that.
Me as well. I spent a lot of time up there, but I'd just like to hear directly from you what the concerns are.
Well, sure. And I appreciate your guys' willingness to come out. I would love to give you a tour so you can see the challenges that we face. La Center is not growing like Richfield or a lot of the other cities in the county, nor do we want to grow like the other cities in the county. We hear it from our residents that they'd like to stay somewhat of a small city, though by law we need to be planning for the future, right? And that involves us going out towards the junction. We don't have the money to take and buy other people's properties and turn 2-lane roads into 4 lanes, you know, to accommodate another 2,000 cars or anything like that. We don't have $15 million to implement a new bridge to even get into the city of La Center. So the challenges we face is that we have to push out towards the junction. And as you know, this ag study is very important to the city in order to achieve this and make it successful. You know, businesses, they want to be out near the freeways. They want that easy on and off access. And I can't blame them, right? With the price of fuel and their challenges as well. But our budgets are very constrained to a small portion that doesn't allow us to do the other way of planning going out the other side. And I'm assuming that most of that is all ag land off the top of my head. So it would be a challenge there as well. These are some of the things that we face each and every day. And we also have brought countless times of meetings with our residents to see how they feel about it. And everybody's under the same conclusion that going out towards the junction is the right path for La Center. So when you guys are willing to come out and ready to come out, just let me know. We'll make accommodations and show you around.
Chair, thank you. I was just going to ask, can you tell me a little bit more about the junction? Because I've never been out to the center, so I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Sorry, yeah, it's a local
Other than
term
the
out there. I do apologize. It's the exit 16 there next to A. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you, Chair. I would echo Washugal's concerns. Our concern is timing. Staff time is not free, and as a smaller city, it's a precious resource. So having the county complete a 10-year process on time would be awesome. I don't think it's too much to ask in 10 years. I understand the concerns and the roadblocks. I know it's not an easy process. And I know sometimes previous councils may constrain your timeline. I understand all that. So this is not an indictment of the current council, but just the process as a whole. Start sooner, I guess. I don't know. I don't live in your world. I don't know all the parameters, but that's our frustration. We want to start bringing jobs to Battleground. This delays that. And then I would also add if the ag land was going to be on the table, we would have liked to known that during the planning process. So it's a little late now for us to go back and look. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out for us.
So we're in the opposite sides, right? We knew about the urban reserve and the ag land that was going to be needed. So we were going that route where you guys were the opposite. You didn't know that would be in play and didn't go that route. Okay, so basically what you're saying is better communication in amongst the cities and the council, the county.
Yeah, that, or, sometimes, pick a decision and stick with it. I don't know what the solution to that is. That could be part of it. But yeah, I mean, knowing that ag land study was going to be done would have been helpful to our planning process. I'm not saying that we would have taken anything, but DNR has approached us about some site-specific requests, and we were thinking about, maybe making mountain bike trail or a park or something. I don't know what it looks like, right? These are just discussions, but those discussions didn't happen because we didn't know that this was
Right.
something.
Just to respond to that, no one knew until December 6th, I believe it was, 2024. So that's when it came into play.
And I understand that. And I'm not criticizing the decision. It's just, what box did this put us in? That's the box.
I feel like we're all in boxes here.
So maybe a suggestion, because looking at the 9 people sitting at this table, I can tell you 8 of us have never been through this before, right? Because I've never been through it. Have you guys been through it? No. So maybe in the future, when we come to these, to the comp plan, that we start out with a work session. This way, we're all on the same page as we're moving forward, and the communication is there.
Some people were not elected when this process got started.
Right, yeah.
So it's a long process. But I do, and this is one thing I've wondered if your planning staff has been through this before, and I don't know what institutional memory there may be for any one of the cities. I think we have a long institutional memory because of our staff, and I think Ridgefield as well, and Vancouver, but I don't know how it has played out. So
We have a very experienced staff when it comes to that and rely on them heavily. So I feel a little out of depth here. This historically has been the planning director. They know this, they live this. So for me to comment is probably a little bit out of my depth.
Right. Well, and they have monthly opportunities to comment and collaborate with each other as this process has moved forward. Councillor Young, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, and I very much appreciate your comments, because no matter what decision we made with that, there were winners, there were losers, if you want to call them that. What I will say is that it's very tricky. what I feel like should have taken place is before the comp plan began, this discussion should have been had and ironed out and determined, is it an option to do a resource land study? Is it an option to expand? But the challenge is we could have had that conversation and then had a brand new council come in and feel differently about it. So it's a tricky thing. And I think we just ended up in the situation we are because we're doing like what was mentioned. This is all our first time through. There are things that we weren't aware of that we later learned, and those impacted how we felt about the entirety of the plan. And course corrections were made. And unfortunately, some of those have led to some of those time delays. But I appreciate it. I totally get it. It is not my desire in any way to slow down anybody's processes, for sure.
Go ahead.
Chair,
Counselor.
we have Dave Fritz that's had his hand raised for a moment.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Dave.
thank you. Just to kind of add a little more from the city of Washougal, we applied for a Public Works Trust Fund loan. The applications period closed in August. I'm not fully sure of all the details of the funding cycle, but if the State Department of Commerce does not certify us as in compliance with the GMA, it's my understanding that we will then become ineligible for the loan. So obviously the timing is very important for us.
We're going to stick a pin in that question because I'm not sure what liability falls to the cities. I know there is a liability with the county because ultimately it's the county's decision. So just know we're going to get back to you on that one. It's a good question.
Great, thank you. We appreciate that.
You bet. Go ahead, Counselor.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks everyone for being here today. It's a unique opportunity and has already been mentioned. None of us are land use practitioners. And so, whatever trope you want to attach to that, but I think it's still an important conversation. And we do have the practitioners in the room and on the phone. So if we say inaccurate things, they'll be quick to correct us. A couple of things that I wanted to say in response to some of the comments that have been made so far, and then I also have a few prepared comments. I'm not in the business of predicting the future, but based on what we've seen from jurisdictions who went through the comprehensive planning process in 2024, none of whom, to the best of my knowledge, and this is Puget Sound area, one of whom maybe actually delivered on time, and it's now September, and their deadline was December 31st. So I think it's fair to say that likely none of us will be finished with this process by the true deadline of December 31st this year. But I think we'll be given grace. And so concerns about timing are well placed and should create a sense of urgency for all of us to do the work. But I think it's also important that we do it thoroughly and thoughtfully rather than quickly, because the decisions that we're making are decisions that have long-term consequences. This is in its nature a comprehensive planning process for the next 20 years of our county and each of our respective communities. And so that deserves depth and thoughtfulness. All of us have unique challenges to our jurisdictions, but we also have shared challenges. And certainly my hope for this workshop is for us to hear about what our unique challenges are, but also embrace our shared challenges and collaborate in those areas especially. And, I'm not really aware of too many challenges that the individual cities face that place us at odds with one another. And so that's good, right? We're not really here to compete with one another. We're really here to communicate with county leadership over, what it is that we'd like to see, the challenges that we're experiencing, and inform, and also hopefully create a sense of urgency around certain issues and sensitivities. In the city of Vancouver, our challenges are a little bit unique in the county. We have, over the past 75 years, followed land use patterns that were largely modeled after sort of 20th century suburban thought processes. And that's the legacy that we have inherited. But our future looks much different. Our future looks increasingly urban. And we're already beginning to see signs of that if you look out the window here. But that will continue, and it will continue throughout the city. And so that's a change in land use, but it's also a change in sort of culture, right? And there are folks who came here for a very specific purpose, and they're not entirely excited about possibly changing away from suburban to more urban. But the fact of the matter is that if you look around all large cities, at one time they were small cities and they eventually became large cities. Downtown Manhattan wasn't always filled with skyscrapers, right? Neither was downtown Portland. And in fact, if you walk down 12th Avenue in Portland today, sometimes you will see high-rise housing next to single-family housing that's been there since the 19th century. And so these things, they happen in piecemeal. Appreciate the opportunity this morning, and I'll transition over to some of my prepared comments. First, I really appreciate the decision last week to hold a follow-up workshop to look into the issues of problematic VUGA employment expansions that have been proposed. This whole situation was created late by changes that were made to the county VBLM last year, and we see several ways to fix that. Number one, we could make a couple of modest adjustments to the employment side of the VBLM, which hasn't received much attention in this process, but if made more accurate, would be very beneficial to all jurisdictions. Also, adding a small amount of commercial or employment land in the existing VUGA in areas where it's needed to serve local residents. And what I'm talking about there is some of the zoning in the VUGA that we have today is aligned with what I mentioned earlier, this thinking of growing as a suburb. Our thinking is much more aligned around what the planners like to call 15-minute neighborhoods, what I like to call complete neighborhoods, where we don't have vast swaths of housing in concentrated areas of other types of land use, but we incorporate things in such a way that services are in the communities and folks have access to them with all modes of transportation, and that we're not necessarily designing and utilizing land in ways that force people to be car dependent. When we have zoning that is aligned with that sort of more 20th century thinking about suburban expansion, and we're not incorporating small amounts of commercial uses within the fabric of that community, we're just perpetuating this legacy of inheriting, that type of land use pattern. And eventually, our objective would be to correct that, and it's easier to do it in the planning process than after the fact. And then also a small shift of jobs from the VUGA into the city limits would be beneficial for us. We feel like we can plan to accommodate those jobs a little bit more effectively than within the UGA. All of us, including the county, are facing a housing affordability crisis, and we're all required by GMA to accommodate our set numbers of housing units in the various income bands. The hearings boards are showing that they will hold our feet to the fire. So we would advocate coordinating and comparing on this issue, even though we have different numerical requirements and different approaches. I don't know if any of you are familiar with some of the recent decisions about Bainbridge Island and Mercer Island, but their comprehensive plans are being challenged, and they're being forced to rethink some of the decision-making around this very issue. And I think we can learn from that. I don't think that there are large changes that are necessary to some of the paths that we're on now. But I don't think any of us want to have the work that we're thoughtfully engaged in now challenged and have to redo it again after the fact. And so keeping an eye on the landscape and learning from those that are going before us, I think benefits us all. More broadly, is scheduling allowed? We would hope to have more dialogue like this, both with staff, which I know is happening on a routine basis and we appreciate, but also with electeds. And you've heard from all of us that although we're not practitioners, we serve constituents who have a very keen interest in the work that we're doing here. And it's important that we're all collaborating at all levels, because as a region, as well as individual jurisdictions, the decisions that we're making are going to have long-lasting ramifications. And of course, the more recent conversations between the city of Vancouver and the county over potential annexation strategies make all of this work that much more essential. The last comment that I wanted to make in terms of these timing concerns and putting pressure on all of us to I'll use my own phraseology, do better. Whether folks at the elected level or the staff level have experience with the comp planning process previously, whether there's institutional knowledge or not, there has been a tremendous, and I cannot underscore that enough, tremendous amount of change happen at the state level, not just prior to this comp plan process starting, but during this comp plan. Just in the last 3 years alone, we have had major bills that have strongly informed the work that we're doing. New models have been created. And so what we're doing is unprecedented in the era of the GMA. I don't like sports metaphors, but I'm going to use one here. The goal lines are being moved on us while we're playing the game. So I think that we should give each other grace, do our best, do it thoughtfully, be mindful of the timelines, but don't let that artificially force us to make compromised decisions that we're going to have to live with for the next 20 years. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I have a follow-up question. Could you elaborate on the employment side of things and changes with the VBLM that could benefit all of the jurisdictions? And I ask this question cautiously because I know there's work the VBLM started out, 3 years ago, and to really make any major changes now really impacts everything going down the line. So I'm cautious about that, but I'd like to understand what you mean in terms of benefit to all of the jurisdictions.
Well, first, I would say your cautiousness is well placed, for sure. And what we have in mind are very subtle changes. And I'm going to honor the stated intent of the other electeds here and not go out of my depth and get into the very specifics about that, but offer our staff as a resource to your staff and to you to talk about in the weeds about what potential changes those might be. But I think that they are subtle, but could have meaningful differences and I think be helpful to all of us in this process.
Great, thanks. Well played, and we'll stick a pin in that one as well. Thank you. Anyone else online? Yes. Mayor Hogan.
Yes, I want to thank you guys for having this meeting. And our subject matter expert is Alan Peters. And I'm hoping to just get him to talk about where we stand and what we would like to do. Alan, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Chair Marshall and councilors. So I think just reiterating some of what we've heard from the other cities, our priority is to stay on track. And, I totally agree with what Council Member Paulson from Vancouver just stated. Things have changed in this process after it started. And so we acknowledge, that the legislature, acknowledged that we would need more time to complete this accurately and do a good job. So I think, we're not so much concerned with the delay or adopting beyond December 31st of this year, but you have released what we think is a reasonable timeline and achievable timeline to complete this process next June. And we just want to stay on track with that, right? Anything that is within the county's hands that causes delays is going to affect our ability to deliver by June. And, our motivation to adopt, I think, is just because I think there's a lot of important stuff that's going to be in this plan for all of us. Some of those are state requirements that are new, but I think these updates are going to be vital for the health of our housing supply, our economy, our environment here in Clark County with the new climate planning requirements. So we want to get moving on that, and I know that we have members of the development community that are very anxious to see this all wrapped up so they can use the tools that we'll be providing. But I think an important part of that process obviously is the natural resource land study. So we want that to stay on target as well. But there's a lot of unknowns there. And so I think what's important for us in Camas is that the county build in the time and flexibility for cities to adjust our plans before final adoption, especially in the event that study comes back and does not support urban growth expansion into ag lands. So Again, thank you, and we appreciate the chance to be part of this conversation and any future ones that might happen between now and June.
Thank you. There are some wild cards still out there. And I know from the county's perspective, we'll do our darndest to keep things moving around, but there's still some wild cards out there, especially the ag study, because that can go in many different directions and, you know, whether or not anything becomes challenged along the way. Other thoughts? Yes, please go ahead.
So like people have mentioned, like the other cities, we have, of course, as you all know, grown so much. And we have people in Ridgefield that love it. And we have people in Ridgefield that are very upset about the change because they've lived there for a very long time and, you know, just did not want that type of growth in the city. But that's the way it is. And a lot of us love it very much. The other challenge that comes along with that are people that can't afford those type of homes that are being built now. And so we struggle with trying to find a way to build homes for people who cannot afford that type of housing that we have built there now. And so one of the things that we have found as a council that helps with that is being able to work with our developers that build our apartments and get them to hold a certain amount of those apartments for low income. And so in these last groups of apartments that we've built, we have worked with the developers to hold a certain amount for 80%, you know, of income and 60%. And so I wanted to give you some numbers of some of the apartments that we've had built, because I think that we had some misunderstanding about how many apartments have been built in Ridgefield. But right now we have 495 total units of apartments that we have built right now that are, you know, that are people are living in. We have 588 units that are in the pipeline. So that gives us about 1,000 apartment units that will be available, you know, totally before very long. Some of them being senior living apartments. We have 148 independent living apartments on the way. And then we also have some other land that is currently zoned for multifamily. And so I'll let Matt talk more about that, if he will, the mayor talk more about that. But I just wanted to bring up the fact that that's one of the ways I know cities really struggle with this ability to build low income housing for people. And it's just a problem for all of us. And I mean, you can't do it with the cost of the land that we have now. And if you've come up with any other way to be able to fulfill that, it'd be wonderful to hear about it. But I mean, you can't get people to be able to sell property, and we can't find a way to do it any other way. So that's one of the ways that Ridgefield's been able to solve that.
Yes, go ahead.
Just like to add to that because it is a challenge. And we, as I mentioned in my prepared comments, we are mandated to allocate housing at those different income levels. 80% requires a level of subsidy from the city in order to create it because of the cost of land and the cost of construction. Just on a per door basis, you know, the price is not available to 80%. We were just talking earlier this week about up in our Heights development, creating ownership opportunities for folks in 80% and targeting a price of $495,000. That doesn't sound affordable to me, right? It's below the median.
I know.
And it involves a subsidy and a land trust, but it's still expensive housing. But I think what we all need to acknowledge, and I think we all need to talk to our state legislatures about, is ultimately the way that this has been written with these allocations at these different income levels, especially when you talk about 60%, which inherently and by definition requires not just one-time subsidies, but ongoing subsidies. And I don't use this phrase lightly because it's an overused trope, but it is an unfunded mandate because the state is requiring us to accommodate those units, but they're not providing a mechanism by which we can fund those units. And I think that's a conversation that we collectively can use our voice to communicate with Olympia to say, fine, we'll plan for it, but you need to help us fund it. So I
I
think it's a
agree.
really important point to
Yes.
underscore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
I would just say good point, and I think this is another one that we can stick a pin in and follow up and may think more collaboration related to a legislative agenda that can help us all would be a good thing. Please go ahead.
To that point, Chair, I just wanted to thank the county council because Battleground currently has a VHA project, 100 units for low income that the county partnered with VHA to make happen. So collaboration is happening. It is ongoing. Discussions do happen. I don't want to give the impression that it is not a partnership, and we respect and appreciate the partnership. So, you know, between that and MFTE, I feel like Battleground is pulling their share on this. We would like to see the plan recognize that. So what Battleground is asking for is essentially employment lands. We have enough stock for housing right now. And if you've been through Battleground in the last 2 months, there's not a lot of dirt that's not moving. I don't know what's going on. But there's a lot of housing stock coming on really soon. So, but we are in dire need of those employment lands. And for those that aren't aware, that's what our ask is, to go out to Dollars Corner and to use those lands so that people can live, work, and recreate in Battleground. To the counselor's point, creating those pockets of community essentially. So right now we have been historically a bedroom community that commutes, and bringing more and more jobs will mitigate that and benefit us all.
You know, this brings up a good point here, and I appreciate the comments that are going on this. And I think it is important for us to communicate with the state legislature that they need to fund this, because one of my primary concerns also is if we plan for a certain sector of housing, but there's no way to fund it, we have systematically built in a deficit of housing. So all the more important that we make sure and communicate with the state that if this is the way that we have to go, we have got to identify ways to fund. Otherwise, our housing stock won't get built.
Chair? Yeah, I agree. We have a meeting coming up with the state delegation with our legislators. I'm also on the WASAC, the Washington State Association of Counties Board. And we have a meeting tomorrow, and I'll bring this up for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair. So shifting gears, as you know, the county council will be deciding based on the study and how it comes back of maybe taking the land out of agricultural and moving it into the urban growth. You guys will be the ones that make that decision on how that study comes back. What I'm asking, you know, knowing that cities are doing their due diligence and collecting data, what would you guys like to see in terms of information to help you make an informed decision of what the cities would like?
Well, I think related to the ag study, you know, we'll see the information, and I'm hoping, assuming it'll be data-driven. This is one of the big wild cards that we have. There could be land that is no longer suitable for agriculture and could be available for de-designation. There could be land that was not designated agriculture and is suitable for agriculture. So, so we don't know how that is all going to turn out. Tell me your question again.
Well, I'd like to know what type of information you'd like from each of us, or, you know, Ridgefield and La Center, in order to help make you guys, or give you guys an informed decision, to be able to base that decision off of, right? Because you guys, even if it comes back and says it's been, it's no longer agricultural, it doesn't need to be, you guys are still going to make that ultimate decision, right? You're still going to go, well, we either go this way or we go this way, and there'll be some conversations. What type of information are you looking from the cities in order to help you along with that?
Counselors?
I would say proper process. So what you have gone through at this point with your community, what does that look like? Because to me, I've said this from the dais at some of our meetings is here I am, a county councilor that lives in the city of Vancouver, making decisions that determine the fate of La Center, right? So I give a lot of latitude to the cities and what they feel is appropriate for their community, so long as that process has been valid and thoughtful. That being said, I don't expect an answer on this right now, but I would say that I really hope that you guys are working on a plan B, because it's like Chair Marshall said, it is a wild card. We do not know what the outcome of that is going to be. And it's going to be a hard discussion if it comes back that those expansions are not allowable. So I hope that the two jurisdictions are looking very closely at that and will be ready in case that takes place. But yeah, that's what I would say to answer your question is how well was your process overall?
The other thing I think besides the ag question is if it is determined, and I think we'll leave it to the planning staff to figure out, all of our planning staff to figure this out. But if you need to accommodate the numbers that have been allocated for jobs and for population, and if you're bringing in more land than is needed, that would be an issue. And ultimately, we need to look at this through the lens of the GMA and what's defensible, because this is something that the county is going to need to defend. So I'd say look at things through the lens of the GMA and provide us with that information.
Chair, if I could. Yeah, just to comment on that as well. And I think that's a really valid point, Councilor Young, that you brought up as far as what our plan B is, and I look at the work that, speaking specifically to Ridgefield and what the work that we have put into it, and all of the data points that we've assembled to say, hey, here's how we're going to grow. And, and to Councilor Paulson's point, you were talking about how Vancouver's moving towards more of an urban model, and you're kind of mixing that with a cultural shift as well. That to me speaks identity. It's community identity, and every single jurisdiction has its own unique identity that we're kind of working with, while also trying to collectively plan for what the county growth looks like. And so as we look at that, we say we've obviously made some requests for de-designation, and there is some plans associated with that. And then as we look to a plan B, is the expectation that we would follow a more urban model as well. And that speaks to our identity, because when I look at that and I say, well, what is our plan B? It means that we have to increase density in existing, or redevelopment in existing residential areas. And so is the expectation that we would also, the smaller cities would follow more of an urban model and have to increase density to that degree? Or is it that we would be able to have that flexibility to plan for the right amount of density in certain areas, and then, accommodate the housing that, the housing forecast that we see, to accommodate all the new homes that are going to come here over the next 10 years as well?
I would say it's not so much my individual expectation, but again, I think look at things through the lens of the GMA. And if you look at all of the goals, and ultimately, I think all of those goals speak to growth needs to occur within the cities. And if we're going to be more, reduce vehicle miles traveled and all of those things, I think all of that lends itself to more density within the cities and more of an urban environment. And, that's when I read the goals of the GMA and reducing sprawl, that's what it says to me.
Yeah. And I guess to that end too, look at this is where I think that our council has sort of struggled to kind of figure out, okay, how do we make all the pieces fit? And I consider Ridgefield a very well-planned city with, different zones. Like if you look at our junction, we have our regional businesses, and that's where we're getting the Costco in and out. And that's where we're getting a lot of more regional traffic coming in. And as you kind of work your way into the city, you get to more downtown, it feels more rural, more quaint, And then I look at what we've done with our housing targets since 2016. I think we had a density target of almost eight units per acre. We've exceeded that. We're closer to 6. And so to look at our forecasts to grow by another, I think 40 or 50% over the next 10, 20 years, what, would we be expected to, I guess I see that as, would we be expected to increase the density even further because we've already exceeded those targets? And so that's kind of where our council has really wrestled. And I'd be interested to hear from other cities how you've approached that. If you've exceeded your density targets, are you going to increase them even further because of the growth demands that are placed on our respective cities?
Mayor Cole.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what is the currently density of the city of Richfield?
The current density, as far as like units per
Within the city limits, what is the current population density of the city of Richfield?
with the current population, I think if we're going off of the April OFM, it's just shy of 17,000, 16 something.
17,000?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's that. It's a lot less than that. It's about 2,400 people per square mile.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that the GMA or the comprehensive plan or the county council expects the city of Richfield, the city of La Center to ever become as dense as the city of Vancouver. You have room for growth. You have plenty of room for growth without having to add additional land as it stands. As I look at your city limits, and that's part of the city limits that extends out to the 5, there's plenty of available land to continue building both commercial and residential. So I guess I'm not really sure why you feel that the expectation is that you at some point become urbanized or Manhattan at some point. But so I guess I'm just a little bit confused about that assertion.
I think we've looked at it as in, where we've said, hey, like I just said, we've exceeded those density targets. So, we have done that, we've accommodated it, but it'd cause us to redevelopment, and this is kind of what we've been saying. It's like, where we fit and we'd have to take 2,000 more households and put them into existing neighborhoods, or it'd cause a lot of redevelopment based on what we've done historically. And the way we're moving forward is definitely more multifamily housing, increasing the density there. And then, as Mayor Pro Tem said, that we have also included an affordable housing component to a lot of those new multifamily housing units as well. So, I look at that and say, well, yes, yes, you can look around and say, oh, you have all this open space, but then, if we're also exceeding our density targets, the question is, are we expected to increase it even further? Because I think we've done our work. And then we're still growing. As it's no secret that we've been growing. So how do we continue to grow and accommodate the future growth when we've already exceeded those targets, thus the expansions?
And for the city of La Center, our challenge is the terrain, right? We have a lot of terrain that is not buildable, wetlands included. And not only that, we had a waste site, that takes up 100 plus acres right there at the junction that is not buildable. So when you're looking at that land or the expansion there, please take that into account. And that's why I asked you guys to come out and visit the city so you can actually see that with your own eyes. Nobody's going to put a house on a 80% slant. It's just not going to happen. And nobody wants to build over a dump. So.
Okay. We haven't heard from the Cowlitz, so I just invite Dean, if you'd like to have anything to say or share.
Thank you. At this time, I don't have a comment. I'm just listening in, and I appreciate the conversation and appreciate everybody's comments. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, if I could add something, I think this illustrates the difficulty in this process. Each jurisdiction is different. Each jurisdiction has its own vision for itself, and each jurisdiction has its own reality of the dynamics that exist within their boundaries. So, you get into, this is and I think that's why the intent of the GMA is to reduce sprawl, not eliminate it, because I think in some cases you cannot possibly just eliminate completely, because you then develop economic demographics such that you might be preventing housing from being built. So I think the state laws that have been passed are the best, which is really we need rollback restrictions on what people can build. Let the market build itself out. We have kind of gotten into ourselves into this situation because we for so long have only allowed certain types of housing in certain places and stuff like that. So I think that would be a fix to it, but not the only one, certainly. I think it's just important to have a bit of sensitivity to each jurisdiction individually about their overall vision that they want to achieve in the future, balanced with the constraints of that specific area geographically of land. So nobody's solution is going to look the same. And you can't compare one jurisdiction to the other and say, that's not fair, they get this, because, well, there's different factors on the ground that are leading to the need for that. So I appreciate this conversation. We face a unique challenge, and you can see on display, how difficult the decision is going to be moving forward. It's been a painful process, the entirety of the process, but we are not done yet.
Chair.
Yes, please.
Just if I could underscore a couple of the points that have been drawn out here. So both with the ag lands as well as with these conversations about UGA expansions and density, the phrase that comes to mind is that there's a little bit of art and a little bit of science, right? The art part is this is what our identity is as a community and how we see our identity evolving into the future. The science part is the GMA and the laws that govern what we do. And also within that are certain expectations, not only around housing and jobs allocations, but VMT and some of the other acronyms that we all have gotten to know and love so much through this process. So I think it's good to use the art piece, but I think it's also important to be grounded in the science piece. And Chair, you rightfully said, ag study, data driven, but also the work that we're doing and the decisions that we're making, informing things like density targets and so on, so also have to be data driven, because I'll just mention again, jurisdictions are being challenged on their plans. And the best defense to a challenge is to be able to point to the data and say, we made a data driven decision, which was overlaid with our vision for what we want our community to be, but it's defensible on the data first and foremost. So thank you.
Thank you.
I guess on that, if I could, Chair,
Sure.
just follow-up question of the county council is if we're looking at part art, part science, and we look at a resource lands ag study and potentially de-designating those, and you yourself just were talking about the data points, but where's the nuance in that for you? Is it purely ag data points, or is it a little bit of like what makes the most sense? Because the way we've looked at it as well is not just the data points, but also like how is that land characterized? And there's I think of one area specifically that we've asked for, it's characterized by urbanization or growth on all sides of it, except for where it's at. So would you look at it would you take that into consideration? Or are you looking purely at the data that comes back from the ag study?
Primarily, I would be looking at complying with state law. And I don't know how much art might be involved with that. I feel pretty sure that there'll be a lot of input we've received from all of the cities and the community related to that ag study. So it's all of that will have to be taken in and considered. And I think fundamentally for me, because I think there is great risk that to the county if we're in a couple years of litigation. With that couple years of litigation comes restrictions on grants. And, we've got a history of losing millions of dollars when we're in those contentious arenas. So I think there's lots of information that will be coming in, complying with state law, putting together what is as dispensable as possible, so this dialogue is going to continue. It's not stopping here. There'll be public engagement opportunities along the way related to that ag study. So, I don't know if I'm answering your question. I am as best I can.
Thank you. Yeah.
I would just like to make one ask that we continue and let maybe electeds know, because some of this does happen at the staff planning level. And to a lot of us, maybe it was a surprise, maybe because of our inexperience or lack of knowledge. But it would be helpful to me personally to maybe have some of those communications. I don't know what the timeline is. I know you probably don't know. I don't envy your position or your decision. Don't get me wrong. I know the ag land has a certain date, but I don't know how that rolls forward. So what would be useful to me, and I think my community would, to have that running communication. And I know Chair Marshall is very thoughtful and does come out, and we do have a quarterly sit down as we reside within her district, which really appreciate and hope that continues. But perhaps a formal communication coming from county to the cities to let us know where we're at in the process and what roads are ahead.
Great. And I hope you're having ongoing dialogue with your planning staff as well, because they're the ones that are monthly getting together. But I did print out this is our latest update that gives the time frame. But within this time frame, there are things that we don't know what may happen related to the ag study and if there's challenges along the way. You know, I'm happy to continue to meet with you on a quarterly basis. If you have specific suggestions on, I mean, we'll have you. I don't expect you to follow all of the council meetings, but you know, we have a lot of dialogue at our council meetings. And at any point, if you want to meet and chat about things, happy to do that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know how difficult this will be, but for me, once we have some of the data coming in for the egg study and analysis on the other proposals, I think it would be helpful, at least for me, to tour some of these sites, especially the ones that are going to be the most difficult decisions. So I'd love to take up your offer, just me, go out there, but I wonder if there's a way to coordinate it where we as a council can see and hear from you all about your vision for Dollar's Corner or these other spots, and actually see it. I don't know how we could do that with our scheduling, but it would be really helpful to me to understand all the issues around each request.
So I'm going to note that I saw Chris Cook shake her head. So there may be some OPMA issues with doing it as a council. But I mean, like, you know, I went on a tour with Ridgefield. I did go to La Center, but it was with a constituent, but I'd happy to do that. And we could probably do it in twos, you know, to increase efficiency, but probably not as a quorum.
Just another thing I'd like to make note of, we do have an Ag Commission now, and the consultants met with the Ag Commission at their last meeting. So that might be something to tune into just to get the perspective from the agricultural community, because they have their concerns as well related to the loss of agricultural land. And really, I think for some, they see this as an existential question going forward. So it's all those different interests that need to be balanced. So I think it'd be worthwhile if just invite you to tune in on that.
Thank you, Chair. I wasn't aware of that. When did that start?
It started this past summer. I'm not quite sure when we recruited folks. They've had, I believe, a couple of meetings so far. So they're providing some input. The consultants have met with them to just get some initial input from them.
Do you know if they'll be asking cities to come in and talk with them as well, or is this just strictly to the ag community?
Well, I don't know what the list of groups that the consultants will be meeting with. I'm not sure what their process is, but we can stick a pin in that one too and get back to you about what and there'll be public meetings as well related to that. And once the ag study comes out, and again, data-driven process and complying with state regulations, there'll be an opportunity to weigh in at that point as well. So see what their findings are and see if it makes sense. Okay, I don't know. Are we winding down? Looking around? You know, what-
I'll just sum up. I just want to thank the four of you for showing up. I know you didn't have to do this. So it does mean a lot, and it continue that partnership. We look forward to that. So thank you for being here and hearing concerns and frustrations, and maybe some of them are even actionable, because I know this process is deep and mired in, you know, a lot of laws and regulations. So thank you for the effort.
Thank you for that. Any other comments?
Yeah, I would just add that some of you have done a really good job of reaching out to me. And I'm open to speaking with anyone. So if you want to get a hold of me, I have an email address and we'll meet with you in chat. So.
And just to let everyone know, we read everything that comes in. You know, we might not be always immediately responding, but we read all of the information that comes in. And there's quite a bit. Any other thoughts?
I'll just add that I just want to thank both the county council and then our fellow cities for the partnership and this process. I think it is beneficial, you know, and I'm always curious to see what's going on in other cities and to also collaborate with our county representatives. I would propose that this is a good way to go forward. You know, I don't know, I have not been a mayor for very long, not quite a year. And so I don't know if this is a standard thing, but I would like to entertain maybe that this become maybe a more frequent thing, an annual thing, maybe a semi-annual thing, you know, where we would, there be this joint work session to hear from other cities and to hear from the county on policy issues that confront us all. So if that was something that everyone's amenable to, then maybe our staffs can coordinate that.
Yeah, I don't know if anything quite like this has occurred before. I haven't seen it. But I agree. I think it would be good to meet from time to time. And one thing that I stuck a pin in is affordable housing and those income bands and how we can collaborate on that. Because I think the county is going to be looking at what options we have available. And, you know, some of those options may be helpful to the smaller cities, and figuring out some collaboration on that would be great. I know the city of Vancouver, you've been doing a great job in that realm. So, and I know we have a couple things we stuck pins in. I put stars in them. So we'll follow up with those and get information back to folks about that. So, gosh, I feel like this seems like a natural closing spot. So any last words? Okay, with that, I'll close this work session retreat and thank you all for your participation.
Thank you.